Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and for today's video I have prepared a little opinion piece for you. I have not made a video like this in quite some time, but you know me, I have opinions and I like to talk about them, I like to share them. I personally like to kind of initiate discussions about things like these, even though I know that some people out there will probably be pissed about this because my opinion diverges from their opinion. But this is just my opinion and this does not invalidate anyone's practice. You can call your practice whatever you want, I don't friggin' care. I just want to give you my opinion on things and we can agree to disagree. It's totally fine because in the end, my opinion does not change anything about your practice. Yeah, we will talk about high magic versus low magic versus folk magic today. I have wanted to talk about this topic for quite some time. So I thought, now I finally have the time. So let's just do it. Okay, first of all, a little bit of tea. And now let us start with high magic versus low magic. Most of you will probably be familiar with these terms, but I know some people might not. So let us go quickly over what high and low magic are. High magic is simply another term for ceremonial magic. Most of you will probably be, or I'm guessing that most of you will probably be more familiar with the term ceremonial magic than high magic. And what does this mean? This is basically just a magical practice that is, I like to see it as being more concerned with the above than the below. I like to see it as more concerned with the heavens than the earth. So its goal is usually the union with the divine, the union with God or the universe or source or whatever you want to call it. That's usually more the goal for high magic. And it's usually pretty ritual heavy, so there are usually rituals involved that, well, they are rituals, so they are not just a one-off spell, but done every day or every week or every full moon. So it usually includes a lot of structure and a lot of routines. Whereas if we look at low magic, it is usually concerned more with the earth, with physical things, with finding solutions to very day-to-day problems. So this might be your typical protection spell pouch so that a car won't hit you, or this could be a money spell or something like that. So what most people usually practice as witchcraft would be called, at least by me, low magic. Whereas, for example, a lot of Wiccan practices are more ceremonial. And while, of course, low magic can also include ritual, usually low magic includes more one-off spells, more on-the-spot magic, more work with physical components like herbs or stones or dirts or animal parts or anything like that. So this is kind of where I see the difference between high magic and low magic. What I see often online though is that people kind of misconstrue these terms. They don't see high magic as ceremonial magic and low magic as witchcraft or more down to earth, physically concerned magic or day-to-day concerned magic. They see high and low as good and bad. That's why some people really dislike the terms high and low magic, because they feel like high magic makes ceremonial magic seem better than low magic. But that's just not the case. That's just, in my opinion, a misunderstanding of these terms. So yeah, that is something that I want to make clear. Low magic is not an insult. If someone says you are practicing low magic, that does not mean that your magic is worth less or that it can have less effect than high magic. That's not the case. Low magic can be as effective as high magic. They just have different goals and work with different components. But because a lot of people dislike the terms high and low magic, a lot of people started calling low magic folk magic, because that does not include the ugly term low. It's not lowly, it's folk magic. So it's a different name for the same thing for a lot of people. And that is what I actually want to get into with this video. Because in my personal opinion, folk magic does not equal low magic. And in my opinion, we should not use the terms interchangeably. While folk magic is definitely, at least usually, low magic, not all low magic is folk magic. So simply because you like to work with spell pouches and herbs and very physical components, so typical low magic components, that does not mean that you're practicing folk magic. Because if we look at what folk magic is, well, it's the magic of the folk, it's the magic of the people. It's very, very tied to a specific culture. So usually you will see terms like German folk magic, Italian folk magic, or a lot of the time it is even more regional than that. Because, for example, if we look at Germany, the south of Germany, the north of Germany, the east and the west have vastly different cultures. So the folk magic will be very different. The folklore is very different. So you see, the folk magic is always tied to a people. It's always tied to a culture. Whereas low magic is just a word for a type of practice. Folk magic is not a type of practice. Folk magic is a specific tradition because it's not just the folk magic. There is no such thing as the folk magic. If we just start calling everything folk magic, it will basically lose its original meaning, and it will lose the folk and the culture that should be behind it. So whenever someone tells me I practice folk magic, I always instantly wonder, which folk? Whose folk magic are you practicing? Are you practicing some kind of American folk magic? I know there are a lot over there. Are you practicing some kind of European folk magic or something completely different? There are so many different folk magic practices. But whenever someone says, I'm practicing folk magic, I always wonder, okay, now get more specific. Are you actually practicing a specific folk magic tradition? Or do you want to say that you like low magic, but you just don't like the term? And I personally really think we should rehabilitate the term low magic, because there is nothing wrong with the term low magic. High and low has nothing to do with good and bad or with more or less powerful. It has nothing to do with that. I think we should bring back the term low magic. I have started adopting it for myself again, because while I do practice some aspects of Scandinavian folk magic, I also practice some witchcraft aspects, and witchcraft, in my opinion, is low magic, but definitely not folk magic. Because if you had asked the folk 200 years ago, they would definitely not call what they are doing witchcraft. Witch was an insult. I am a witch, and also I am a folk magic practitioner, but I wouldn't necessarily say that folk magic is specifically witchcraft, and witchcraft is not specifically folk magic, especially when we're talking about more modern witchcraft practices that are not necessarily rooted in one specific folk magic tradition. In those cases, and I personally practice some of these things because not everything that I practice comes from Scandinavian folk magic or would be a traditional Scandinavian folk magic practice. So in those cases, I would call it low magic because it's not some folks' tradition. It's not some cultures' folk magic. It is a different thing. It still looks similar, that's why I'm doing both things, because I like low magic in general, but it's not the same thing. It's not folk magic. With that being said, that is basically everything that I wanted to talk about in this video. This will probably be quite short. Usually I make longer videos, but sometimes you just have to get some stuff out there, and this is something that I just wanted to get out there. As I already said, please be respectful in the comments. Just because you may be calling yourself a folk witch, or because you say you're practicing folk magic but you're not practicing a specific culture's folk magic tradition, that does not mean that I'm attacking you. We can agree to disagree, especially on terminology. There is no such thing as one set terminology for magical practices. So it's totally fine to me if you disagree with me, but just be respectful in the comments. With that being said, I hope you liked this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up and ring the bell below so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Feel free to check out my other socials, and in case you want to support the channel, then make sure to check out my Patreon or my YouTube membership. And I will see you in another video. Bye!